Hey there, Booksters. I hope you're having a great day. So today I kind of wanted to look at relationships and kind of dive into them and, ask the question, could you be in an unhealthy relationship and not know it? Also, this video is going to talk a lot about codependency, what it is, and then could you be in a codependent relationship and not really know that either you're in a codependent relationship or maybe you're the codependent person. So I have a couple of clues that are going to help you see, if that's true about you or your relationship, and then make sure you stay tuned to the end because I have a solution if you do find yourself that, yeah, you know what, I am a little bit codependent, or that's the dynamic in my relationship right now. There's a way out. I have a solution. I found one. And let's get into the video. Hey there, Booksters, and welcome to the Booksters Club, where we find daily inspiration from the books you love. Today's featured book is The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz, and today's inspirational thought comes to us on page number 66. It says, "In every relationship, there are two halves of that relationship. One half is you, and the other half is your son, your daughter, your father, your mother, your friends, your partner. Of those halves, you are only responsible for your half. You are not responsible for the other half. It doesn't matter how close you think you are or how strongly you think you love. There is no way you can be responsible for what is inside another person's head. You can never know what that person feels, what that person believes, all the assumptions she makes. You don't know anything about that person. That is the truth. But what do? We try to be responsible for the other half. And that is why relationships in hell are based on fear, drama, and the war of control." So like I said in the beginning of the video, we're all in relationships. Even if you don't have a significant other or an intimate relationship, you have relationships with everyone. The great thing about what Don Miguel Ruiz was saying was that, you know what, you're only responsible for your half. And I know to some that may seem like, wow, like everyone knows that. But to others, it's not. We tend to take on the responsibility of others. We tend to hustle for people's love, and we tend to, think that if we could do more and make ourselves more valuable to that person, maybe they would love us more. So it's a trap that actually a lot of people find themselves in. So I really wanted to dive in, get deep, and figure out exactly how to take responsibility for your half. And there is entanglement that can really happen in relationships where if you do have a relationship with someone, you find that you're kind of like an amalgamation of the two. You don't know where you start and the other person ends, and you're just kind of like this one big band of a mess. So unentangling means kind of taking responsibility for your side of the responsibility. Codependency is a term that's thrown around and it's used a lot. I wanted to look at it deeply and find out exactly what are those clues, exactly what does that look like. And if that is you, then that's great because that's awareness. So we're going to figure out how to solve that exactly. What is codependency exactly? That's an excessive emotional or psychological reliance on somebody else. So you also have the other side of that coin, right? You have the codependent person who needs that reliance from that person, and then you have the enabler, that person that exploits that person's desire to constantly need to be wanted and needed by that other person. And so you can't really be in a codependent relationship without somebody who is an enabler. And I find that to be really fascinating because we kind of find our energetic match and we find what we are looking for in other partners, not necessarily on the surface, but deep in our subconscious, in where we need evolution and where we need growth. We're going to attract that in somebody else. So, relationships, the real function of them is for us to grow. Interdependence is completely different. And interdependence is when two equal partners are both, enjoying each other's company and experiences, and they're not necessarily dependent on each other. They're just kind of synergizing and they're cooperating and they are enjoying the benefits of both being equal partners, and then what comes from that is that you're able to do twice as much, accomplish twice as much. And so not necessarily your partner, if you're in a codependent relationship, is going to help you out of that. They probably have no idea. It's not even on their radar that they are going to help you out of that. What I mean by that is that they are actually going to trigger the growth in you. They're actually going to show you what you need to work on by being their exploiting, needy, demanding selves. So if you're in that kind of a relationship right now, you're halfway there to your growth. You found that person that's helping you figure out how to get better at it. So that's one way of looking at it. So how do you know if you're in a relationship with someone who is exploiting you or an enabler? Well, they are constantly going to be praising and punishing your activity, your behavior, and what you can do for them. So it's kind of like they're trying to mold you into like the perfect little, servant. So when you do something that they love, they're overly going to praise you. They're just going to go over and beyond, make you feel good. They're just going to, load you up with tons of self-esteem. And then if you don't do something that they want or approve of or that they need, then they're going to hold your self-esteem hostage. They're going to put you down. They're going to make you feel like, man, you disappointed me. Wow. I can't believe you did that. They're going to punish you. And so it's this praise and punishment reward system that they show to really start manipulating you into that codependent role. If that sounds like maybe some of the traits that your partner has, well then I hope you're intrigued. Maybe you're being codependent. And there was an article put out by April Eldermeyer, and she actually had, I'll put a link in the description of the entire article, but in the article she shares 4 clues that are going to help you really identify whether or not you are not only in a codependent relationship, but you are the codependent person. So here are those 4 clues. So the first clue is a codependent person has no interest, hobbies outside of that particular relationship. They're really just only focused on that. And when it comes to having, their own thing that they enjoy doing or that they like doing, they have no idea what that is. So the second clue is that they stay in a relationship despite abusive behavior. So, why would anybody stick around if they're being abused, emotionally, physically, mentally? Some people will say like, oh, because it's out of love. And love is a beautiful thing, but I think that word gets misused. That's not love. And what you're feeling from the person isn't love. What you're experiencing isn't love. That is, a need. There's a need that's being outweighed by the abuse. So if the abuse is this big, the need has to be bigger. And that need could be the need to be wanted or the need to be needed or loved. So if you are experiencing, this effect where you just don't have the wherewithal to leave an abusive relationship, then maybe you need to look at what you're getting from that, because there is a bigger need there that's keeping you there. So the third clue is a codependent person is going to make drastic sacrifices in the relationship. Now, sacrifices, compromise, that kind of stuff, that happens in every relationship. But what I'm talking about is drastic, to the point where it's at an actual detriment to yourself, detriment to your time, your well-being, your energy. You're just overexerting yourself to the point of exhaustion, mental exhaustion, emotional exhaustion. And you are just giving so much of yourself that now, your health is starting to deteriorate. Your well-being is actually starting to deteriorate. So are you giving and sacrificing to the point of, where it's actually hurting you? That's a clue that you could be codependent. So the fourth and final clue is that a codependent person is actually completely preoccupied with the other person's well-being. And that's not just, honey, can I get you something to drink? It's not a slight concern for other people's well-being, because I feel that that is healthy. That's like empathy. You're caring about the people around you. This is a little bit more drastic. This is when you are completely preoccupied. You can't think of anything else. You can't focus on anything else, especially when that person is not in your sight, within your vicinity. Are they okay? Are they going to get hurt? Is something going to happen to them? Like, as if you have to be there in order to make sure that that person is okay, or that if you're not around, somehow that person is going to be lost without you. They're going to, wind up dead. They're going to not be able to find their way home. They're not going to be able to function unless you're around them. Huge clue that you are in a codependent relationship and that you are the codependent person. Codependency, enabling, these are terms that get thrown around a lot when it comes to addictive substances. However, you don't actually have to have addictive substances in a relationship in order for there to be a codependency and enabling, two sides of the coin. And I wanted to just say that labels can be super dangerous. So with all the information that I just shared with you, I am going to say, don't take this so seriously. Labels tend to put a stamp on things, and then because you are that, or because I am that, there is no fixing it. Or I need serious help. I need, medication, or I need counseling. I need this in order to fix it. Look, if you find yourself in a situation where it is severe and it is drastic, especially if you're dealing with addictive substances, then yes, go and seek help. But then I kind of wanted to bring that level of, oh my gosh, there is no end, down, because labels can do that. They tend to put a grip on us and we think there's no way out. Look, we all do a little bit of both. We all do a little bit in manipulating praise. We all do a little bit of punishment. Oh man, I'm so disappointed in you. How could you do this to me? We all do a little bit of worrying about the other person. Oh my gosh, my child is going, on a trip by himself for the first time. I don't know if he's going to be okay. This is normal. It's not like if you do any of these things, you're a codependent person. You're without saving. It's okay. Bring that down a little bit. But I do want to bring it up because it's just awareness. Look, once you find out, wow, I did all 4 of those things, great. So now you have awareness. Now you are seeing that you have some work to do, and that in your relationship, that is kind of the dynamic, and that is what's playing out. So if you are codependent, or if you're in a codependent relationship, here's the way out. It's through self-love, self-care, and self-interest. Just like all 4 of those clues, you want to kind of reverse it and do the opposite. So the first thing is to just have some self-interest. Go get a hobby. Go do something that you like. Also, very telling, if you do something that you really enjoy and it's kind of all about you, pay attention to who has a problem with that. That's really interesting, because we should all be independent. We should all be self-reliant. We should all be whole people with our own hobbies and interests. That's balanced. That's healthy. It's very interesting to see if you start to enjoy something and another person in the relationship has a serious problem with it. Oh, you're doing that again. Oh, you spent all day doing that. Oh, it's kind of like, wow, okay, back up a little bit, go get your own life, go get your own hobbies. It's just a sign that, they're like not okay with you not being codependent. And then the other thing is self-love and self-care. Do things that are good for you. So when it was talking about the 4 clues, it was saying, at a detriment to yourself, where you're not taking care of yourself and you're totally occupied with what this other person needs and is doing, and you're not focusing on yourself. So then do that. Focus on yourself. Give yourself the sleep, the food, the time that you would normally give that other person. Give that to yourself and start taking better care of yourself and nurturing yourself, all the aspects of yourself, all the different sides of yourself. There's a book by Bud Harris, and it's called Sacred Selfishness. I'll have to share it here on the Booksters Club, but he wrote an entire book about sacred selfishness. And sacred selfishness is not, he calls it sacred selfishness versus sickly selfishness. So it's not the same thing as selfishness. Look, we all know what selfish people look like, right? That's when they only care about themselves. They are only worried about themselves. They don't care about anybody else. So that's one end of the spectrum. But then you have the other end of the spectrum of, the codependent person who never thinks about themselves, who never cares about themselves. So in life, we should be experiencing balance. And so that's what makes it sacred. What makes it sacred is you should experience the balance in that. Come back over to the middle, where you're only caring about yourself and you don't care about anybody else, which, by the way, in codependent relationships, when people find this out about themselves, then they tend to go all the way on the other side. Screw you, that's it, I don't care, we're done, I'm only going to focus about myself, and they completely cut that person off because you're super unhealthy for me and we're done. So you can start to really get into the other end of the spectrum. It's kind of like a pendulum when it shifts and it like swings and goes from one extreme all the way to the other. And you can spend years in the other side trying to figure out and experience that to gain the experience of balance, which is what the universe really wants us all to experience, is balance. You can skip all that and just recognize that you need balance. And that balance is sacred selfishness. Sacred selfishness is when you show yourself self-care, love, attention, nurturing. You take all of those efforts that you would normally give to others and you give yourself a little bit of self-love. Relationships are great. They're good. They're good for us. And they help us grow. They help us evolve. If your relationship isn't perfect, don't throw the baby out with bathwater. If you're in a codependent relationship and it isn't too severe, take a look at some of these clues to find out exactly where you need the most addressing, and then use those ways out to gain some balance and to find that equilibrium where you are able to start experiencing your own experience, where you're having your own experience, and it will give your partner or the other person in that relationship a chance to have their own experience. When you cut yourself off from a codependent relationship, it kind of leaves that other person flailing about. Their lifeline isn't there, and so it's kind of sad. You'll see that other person struggle, but you can't be the solution if you're the problem. And so the way that you do that is light follows light. You understand what needs to be done, you make those changes for yourself, you show yourself that self-love and self-care, and then what winds up happening is it looks messy in the beginning, but that other person gets inspired. They see the light and they want their own light. And so they're going to start to become more self-reliant. They're going to start to stand on their own feet. They're going to start to grow, which is what we all need, right? You're not doing anybody any favors by being codependent and doing everything for them. We all need to stand on our own feet, and we're going to feel better doing that. So that's what they're going to start doing. It's good for everybody. It's healthy. When you focus on yourself, when you love yourself, everybody benefits. So don't think of this as, what is everyone going to do without me? Think of this more as, this is what I need to do for myself, and it's going to benefit everybody else in turn. So if you were ever in a codependent relationship, or if you are in a codependent relationship, I want to know if these tips were helpful, if these clues were helpful, and if you're going to use any of them, if any of them were helpful. I love hearing about that kind of stuff in the comments. Please let me know. And if you had a different take on the part of the book that I shared, also let me know in the comments. And if there's a different part in that book that you think should be featured here on the Booksters Club, I would also love to hear about that, or a different book entirely. Thank you so much for clicking that like button if you found this video helpful and useful. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell if you're new, because I post new videos just like this every single day. See you tomorrow, Booksters. So what's the perfect relationship either, right? Supposed to be perfect, or no, let's not do if they're supposed to be perfect. So take two on the whole thing. And I put lipstick on the side of it. Dang it. I feel like please stick around to the end. It's kind of like, please. I'm desperate. Yeah, let's do one more take. Look at her. I kind of liked how casual that was. Who drinks like this? Nobody drinks like this. I put lipstick on it, so that's what I was trying to. You know what? There's lipstick on my mug. I'm not gonna hide it. Yep. And then also, no, there's no also. Okay, just yeah, and it. So what is? Don't say so. What is codependency exactly? That is excessive emotional or psychological reliance. Okay. What is? Okay. What is codependency exactly? What is codependency exactly? That's an excessive emotional or psychological. Okay. So it, don't say so. Actually happen outside of addiction. Okay. So don't say so. Okay.